Hello and welcome to another episode of The Jeff Show. We are once again diving deeply into my archives. This time, we're going to talk about Billy Rath, the bassist of the legendary, seminal New York City punk band, The Heartbreakers, also known as Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers. Definitely at the forefront of the New York punk rock scene post 1975. They were really around from 75 till about 79. They sporadically reunited in the 80s in a variety of different lineups. Sometimes Jerry Nolan wouldn't be there, sometimes Billy Rath wouldn't be there, but it always had Johnny Thunders and Walter Lure. The Heartbreakers started off as kind of like a super group because what you had Jerry Nolan and Johnny Thunders from the New York Dolls. They split off from David Johansen and Sylvain because of their heroin habit, and they were in Florida and they were strung out on and needed dope, yada, yada, yada. So they went back to New York. They met up with Richard Hell, who was also a junkie, and those guys formed the Heartbreakers. I guess later they became Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers. After a while, there was a point of contention where, Richard Hell thought he was the front man and Johnny Thunders thought he was the front man, and eventually they both split. And you'll notice, I think Liars Beware. No, Love Comes in Spurts and Born to Lose are the same song. It was written by both Johnny Thunders and Richard Hell, I think. And Richard Hell formed the Voidoids, and they did Love Comes in Spurts, and Johnny Thunders did Born to Lose. I think it's Born to Lose. Pretty sure. And so the Heartbreakers were the toast of the New York punk scene, headlining Max's Kansas City and all sorts of different clubs. I never met Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan, but I did get to interview Walter Lure, and I did become an acquaintance of Billy Rath at the end of his life. The thing about Billy was Billy sort of disappeared in 1985, which is actually coincidentally the year I was born. The drugs had just gotten so out of control, and Billy went to rehab and he cleaned up, and he went to college. He got his PhD. I believe he was involved with drug rehabilitation counseling, something like that. And eventually wound up in southern New Jersey. Nobody had heard from him, and he had just sort of vanished from public view completely. And then at some point, I believe, from what I understand, his son, whose name is Jeff, convinced him, hey, Dad, make a Facebook account. You really should. And so he did. And little by little, he started to reconnect with people. One of the people that he made contact with was this guy, Joe Truck Casher, who I had recently become acquainted with. Joe was doing a punk portrait photography book, and he had flown to the East Coast to take a bunch of pictures. He had arranged different photo sessions to take various pictures with people, and I was kind of his chauffeur as he would go to all these different places. At one point, we went to Andy Chernoff's place, Andy Chernoff from The Dictators, and we were driving around Brooklyn and took some photos with Andy Chernoff, or Joe took photos of Andy Chernoff. I also took him to Marty Rev from Suicide's apartment somewhere. God, I think he lived somewhere in the financial district. I don't remember exactly. And then Joe was trying to convince me to drive out to the middle of nowhere in southern New Jersey. He's like, dude, Billy Rath, he's a legend, and I had known of the Heartbreakers, of course. I'm very familiar with the Like a Motherfucker album. I had read Please Kill Me and had a thorough, deep appreciation for both the New York Dolls as well as the Heartbreakers, but I wouldn't have called myself a diehard fan. But if you were around back then, these guys were huge. So someone like Billy Rath, in addition to Walter Lure, the two surviving Heartbreakers, were still a big deal to a lot of people who were around back then because they were like the kings of the scene. And so Joe convinced me, he said, he said, you should interview him for your documentary. And it didn't really make sense to interview Billy for my documentary. I was doing a documentary about the Misfits. I had interviewed Walter Lure. It made no sense to interview these guys, except for the fact that they were the go-to authorities for the New York punk scene in the late 70s. And that's where the Misfits came out of. And I thought, it'd be really impressive to get these points of views, even if they're not directly connected to the Misfits, because technically the Misfits were their contemporaries for a few short years. So I said, why not? In the very least, it would be really cool to have this interview with Billy Rath, who no one's heard from. As it would turn out, as far as I know, the interview that I have with Billy Rath is the only long-form Billy Rath interview out there currently. It's about 45 minutes. I don't even really remember what was on it. I did not ask him much about the Misfits. I really asked him about, New York punk in the 70s. That's what we talked about. We talked about Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, yada, yada, yada. And so we took this road trip down. It was a fun road trip. Joe showed me bands like The Mad, who I had never actually listened to. It was really fun. We were listening to I Hate Music. Great song by a great band, The Mad. We get down there, and it doesn't even really feel like we're in Jersey anymore. Technically, we're in South Jersey, but it's just, it's another world down there. It just feels cut off and remote. Billy didn't have a car. He was living in this house. He was still married at this point, and Billy was missing a leg. He had diabetes, and diabetes had caused poor circulation throughout his body. He had to have his leg amputated. So he had a fake leg, and you could kind of tell when he would get up and walked around. He really did look like he was being held together by, Scotch tape, I don't want to speak ill of the dead because Billy was truly a sweetheart. I'm just speaking from a observational standpoint. Because I got to be honest, Billy was always a sweetheart to me, and our interactions were always very lovely and pleasant. I ended up seeing Billy a whole bunch of times over this 2-year period. I would constantly cross paths with him, especially when he came back to New York. But we go there, and I'm with Joe Truck, and Billy plays us this demo, and it's not, it's got like a drum track and some bass riffs, and he's telling us this is the stuff he's working on. He was feeling very optimistic about a future that I could not really see, if I'm being honest. I just couldn't see it. He looked like he had accrued a lot of mileage, if you know what I mean. That's like the nicest way that I could say it. But such a polite, cordial, sweet man. Joe took his pictures of Billy. He sat down and did an interview with me, and we drove back up. And then a few months later, because of the documentary that I was working on, I had also connected with Peter Crowley. Peter Crowley was the booking agent for Max's Kansas City. Also, I think his proper title was he was the musical director. And, every act that passed through, it's a shame, it's a crime that Peter Crowley has not written his book yet, his biography. He lived a very interesting life, ran away to join the circus when he was young, and, had literally rubbed elbows with everybody. He would come up. He was living down in Florida at the time. I believe he was still living with Joey Pinter's sister. He would come up to New York from time to time. He had moved down to Florida in 1997 permanently, but he would come up from time to time to do these Max's Kansas City reunion shows. And it was around this time that he was planning another one, and I forget how I got involved, but I had gotten involved. And so I was sort of like assisting Peter Crowley with this production, and I wasn't very good at it. It was not my foray. And, he had me calling and contacting bands over stuff. I forget why, to be honest with you. But one of my tasks was to pick up Billy Rath from the train station, because Billy Rath had been on Facebook and he had reconnected, I guess, with Peter Crowley or somebody. And now he was going to be performing at the Max's Kansas City reunion. This was taking place on September 11th at the Delancey on the Lower East Side. And he was going to be doing some Heartbreakers songs with Walter Lure. Walter Lure became a very successful businessman after surviving the New York punk scene of the 70s and 80s, and would occasionally perform as the Waldos. So Walter was doing the Waldos. He was going to have Billy was going to come up and do some songs, which they did. And I shot video of it, and I can't find the video for the life of me, which really upsets me. But I picked him up from the train station. He remembered me. I drove him out to Lee Black Childer's house. Lee was the manager of the Heartbreakers. So Lee and Billy reconnected. He was staying with Lee. So I was hanging out with Lee Childers, who, you know, again, just go Google that guy and his whole resume. I don't even want to get into it, but he had been involved in so much in addition to managing the Heartbreakers. Just the three of us were just hanging out in Lee's apartment in Brooklyn. It was really cool. And I was kind of like his chauffeur while he was in town. He didn't have a car. So there was that. And then sometime later, I got a call from Billy. We had exchanged numbers. I got a call from Billy out of the blue. And Billy's like, hey, I'm putting this band together. We're called the Street Pirates. And I want you to come down to the rehearsal space, which was somewhere in Midtown. And I want you to just shoot a bunch of fly-on-the-wall video of us rehearsing, because Billy had every intention of reviving his career and sort of, you know, was putting this band together and was going to go out and do stuff. We were making casual small talk, and he's telling me about all the things he's planning on doing. He's going to go over to England, you know, and do some shows there. And I'm thinking, wow, and he's telling me he has this manager. And yeah, it's good. You know, it all sounded fantastic. So he's like, hey, could you just come down and shoot some video? I said, sure, of course I'll come down. So I came to Midtown, to this rehearsal studio loft space place, whatever you want to call it. You rent a room by the hour, you know, and everything's soundproof. It's a studio, music studio.
Too soon. Am I right?
Probably right.
Well, it should have.
You wanted that little hesitation before that.
Well, at the end too, but I mean, it felt to me like even before that you came in a little bit.
More than likely. Very possible.
Solo, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Guitar solo.
Let's go. Count it off.
from the clock. Were you? No, you have.
That's when you play it slow, maybe 2 bars, and go right into the fast part, right?
Yeah. Very good. 1, 2.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
What the fuck was that? Take it from there.
This place is haunted.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Take it from the part a little bit before that. Maybe the chorus before that.
Okay.
4? Yeah.
You know what that is, Joey?
Chorus.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The chorus, so
It does 4 pirate loves and it comes in.
yeah, maybe the signals when you're coming in with the vocal part for now.
All right.
guess so.
Next time we do it.
Honestly, I had no idea why I was recording this footage. I was never told what it was going to be used for. They never asked me for the tapes afterwards or to digitize the tapes or send them the footage. He just told me to come there with my camera and start rolling. So you'll notice, I mean, there's none of this really makes any sense. I'm just sort of there casually asking questions, trying to be a fly on the wall, trying to capture what's going on in the practice, and completely unaware of what the purpose of the recording is going to be. So, you know, I was very casual with my handling of the camera. To be honest, I thought maybe they were going to use some of the rehearsal clips for an EPK of some kind, which is electronic press kit. But ultimately, it remains a mystery. Joey Kelly is singing, who plays in a band called Buddy Love. He was also at that Max's Kansas City reunion. Johnny Rao, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's playing guitar. He was in David Johansen's band. So after David Johansen and Sylvain dissolved the New York Dolls, after, you know, because they had limped on. The New York Dolls were never the same after Jerry Nolan and Johnny Thunders had left in 75, and they continued, or 74 maybe, and they continued on. And eventually David Johansen and Sylvain both launched their solo careers. And I believe that Sylvain actually played in David Johansen's band, solo band, which leads me to wonder, well, if they were doing the New York Dolls without the other guys anyway, isn't David Johansen solo essentially just still the New York Dolls? And, you know, again, this would continue on, you know, in 2006, after Arthur Killer Kane died, it was just Sylvain and David Johansen with the other guys. So, you know, I don't know. It's just interesting to me how valid that new lineup of the New York Dolls was, if you remember that they were doing the New York Dolls, you know, like that even back then in the 70s. So this guy, Johnny, he was playing guitar, and he was like the Johnny Thunders type guy, like this hotshot guitar player. Was, you know, not particularly friendly. I don't know. Maybe I was just reading into it, whatever. I forget the name of the drummer guy. He was from a band called the Hudson Dusters. And, you know, all these guys, they were around back then. They still lived in New York City, and they were still playing music. They were just doing, you know, club gigs, and whenever these reunions would happen, like Joey Kelly, he was in a band called Buddy Love, and I think something else about mobbed up, maybe all mobbed up, something like that. And I think he was a doorman or a bouncer of some kind at Max's Kansas City back in the day. Could be wrong, but do not quote me on that. Could be wrong. I don't remember the drummer's name. And you had Billy on bass.
And we're rolling.
I'm just the drummer here in the Billy Rath band. I need some main players. Johnny. Billy. Here comes Billy.
What's your, let me ask you a question.
Some guy I found walking around the bar with, so I decided to ask him if he played drums. He said yeah. So we started playing together today.
Billy's my hero.
Had a good match.
Glad to.
All right, so now he's part of the Street Pirates.
Nice. And what does it take to be a street pirate?
Well, it takes to be a rock and roller, that's all. That's it, to rock and roll. Eat, sleep, and drinking.
Yeah.
That's
so
it.
Good rock and beat.
We're getting ourselves ready to cut a 7-inch single, and that should be out the end of June, beginning of July, somewhere around there. And then we'll be doing some American dates to follow up that 7-inch single.
What about Johnny Ray? Johnny Ray, come on.
Guitar player, Keith Richards came to join us today.
Best in town, right?
That's right.
This is Johnny. Say your howdy word.
Hey Johnny, when you're playing guitar, or when you're laying down riffs, especially Johnny Thunder's old riffs on something like Pirate Love or whatever, is there what words of wisdom can you give the audience?
Try not to step into his shoes and do what he's doing. See, you can't do it better. So I've been in this situation before when I joined Johansen's band, and I just do my own thing because I don't want to be compared. So I just do my own thing.
And if you really listen to it,
Very well put.
you know, you hear, yeah, maybe Johnny has a roof part.
Yeah, you can cut through real quick. Sorry.
Thank you for waiting.
Sorry.
You know, Johnny got a roof part with Johnny Ray here, he's putting his own thing to those songs.
Well, I will. I mean, maybe, I'm just getting to know the songs now, but I will try to put my own signature on them as we go along.
Plays them perfectly.
That's pretty sweet. That's pretty
We're
sweet.
looking for the Street Pirates.
That's my wisdom.
And are the Street Pirates are not? I mean, the Street Pirates are playing Heartbreaker songs, but what else is down the line for the Street
Well,
Pirates?
our goal is to do completely our own material. So we're using the Heartbreaker stuff because it's good stuff. And now it's part of the Heartbreakers. And so right now we're going to do that, plus start incorporating,
Bookend the set.
our own material.
It's a great way to introduce new material to the audience.
Yeah, something more updated, I've been writing a lot of music, so I write with Joe, the guy who's not here.
Yeah, we're basically...
He's here in spirit. He's here in spirit. Is there anything else you guys like to say to the camera?
No, except our lead singer kind of bit the dust, I guess.
You got the nucleus right
He
here.
wants to do his own.
Yeah, here's the band right here, right
Power
now.
trio already.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing y'all out there. Remember, it's Billy Rath and the Street Pirates, and it's really the Street Pirates. Okay? You got it?
I got it.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
That's too tall for me.
Say some words. Hold on.
Say some words.
Come on through, guys. Come on through. We have permission to use your image now. All
We might
right.
have
Sorry.
been a little bit late, but it's okay. We allow them some leeway seeing that, a little loose up here. But this is Johnny Boy, Joey Boy, Joey K, Johnny, and Billy. Okay? Now, I'd like you to say a few words about how we hooked up.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
How we hooked up. We were at Our Shrunken Head, Max's Kansas City's second reunion. Billy walked in, me, Peter Crowley. We were just devastated. We hadn't seen him in a few years, and it was good to see him. We hung out, we talked, and all the vibes were good, and we talked about doing something, and here we are. And got these band of thieves right here. Johnny Rayo, Bill Tello.
Now I remember. Yeah, you guys did. Now I remember. That's where I remember you from. You guys were playing. You guys played that night at Autos, right?
Yeah, we played that night.
Yeah, probably with our individual.
Yeah.
Right.
Billy plays with the Hudson Dusters. Johnny Rayo, I mean,
Johnny used to play with David Johansen for a long
right?
years.
And has his own thing called the Dead Cowboys. I play with Buddy Love and All Loved Up. And of course, Billy.
Now we all play together.
Yeah, we do. We play together.
All right. That's awesome. Hold on. Let me put it in picture mode, and I'll actually take a picture. Nope, that's not it. Sorry.
And so that's what you're going to see right now is me with my camera being the fly on the wall. And another person you're going to see in the footage, I mentioned the manager guy, right? Well, this manager guy, he was just some young kid who looked like he literally just bought a brand new leather jacket for like $1,000 at like, H&M or something, and had just gotten into punk rock in the last week, decided that he was going to manage Billy Rath. And so he was kind of there giving all this advice. And, I don't remember the guy's name. That guy was, he was a goober, man. He was just kind of like a gooberish guy who, he walked around. He was a young kid. Probably was 20, 21 years old, something like that. He seemed really, really young to me, maybe fresh out of college or even still in college. Probably told Billy, hey, I can do all this stuff for you if you let me manage you. And Billy, being out of things for so long, was like, yeah, sure, I'll go along with that. You want, you're interested in, helping me revive my career, of course. And he just talked with, you'll hear him in the tape. He just kind of talks like that, like with his like nasally voice. I don't know. He's just kind of, he kind of was, and he had an air. I remember he was not friendly at all. He was I think this guy really thought a lot of himself. At least that was my perception at the time. He just sort of was just like, like had this air about him. And you'll see what happens in the footage. So here's the other thing you got to remember too. When you're watching this tape, The guys, this is their first rehearsal. They are extremely raw. I'm not even sure if they've ever played in a room together. This is literally the first time that they are jamming on these Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers songs. And they're talking about how they have to get some originals and they want to put out a 7-inch, all sorts of stuff like that. But, it's still really good. It's still, and I had some of these videos already on my YouTube channel, but I figured, why not just show the full uncut tape? People love this stuff. Billy's no longer with us. Billy passed away in 2014 from throat cancer. And I just, for the fans of the Heartbreakers who want to pour over Billy Rath in the same way that I like to pour over maybe Glenn Danzig, have at it. Here's why leave it on a hard drive, And yeah, so don't be too critical of them because again, they are extremely raw. It is their first time rehearsing and I'm not sure they've all played together as a cohesive unit. We're literally witnessing the birth and death because I don't think it happened again after this one rehearsal. So somewhere in between songs, at some point when the cacophony of noise had died down, I casually mentioned something about England and the other band members all sort of perk up and they go, what? What about England? Billy, you didn't tell us about England. Now, you got to understand, this all happened 10 years ago. Billy's passed away. I don't think there's any harm in just giving you the full context of what you're seeing on the tape. And so it seems that Billy it was either Billy, I can't put it on Billy. It might have been the kid. It was this kid, this manager guy, probably, who didn't tell, they didn't tell the band, or maybe he said to Billy, don't tell these other guys. We'll get other guys, because at the end of the day, and maybe what these other guys didn't realize is, or maybe what this kid was whispering in these guys' ear is that, it's going to cost us a lot of money to bring all these guys over. It's better just to get guys over there. You'll have a band here, you'll have a band over there. You can kind of, everybody can be a Billy Rath street pirate if they want to. They were going to be called the Heartbreaking Street Pirates. Billy Rath's Heartbreaking Street Pirates. That was the first incarnation of what this was. And there were later versions of Billy Rath's Street Pirates or just the Street Pirates. I think it worked. They had a gimmick. They kind of dressed like pirates. One of the later guitarists in one of the later versions, he had like this. He really looked like a pirate. He looks like straight out of Peter Pan, Captain James T. Hook's crew. In any case, I make mention of England. The other guys are scratching their heads. And you see the kid and Billy, they're kind of like shit in a brick. They're kind of like very nervously trying to explain something. And at some point, I'm not sure if I did this on purpose or I did it by accident, but I started rolling the tape. So I actually got part of the conversation on tape. I completely forgot that this was recorded. And it's just like a total revelation to me. I was like, holy crap. Like, I didn't even realize that I was rolling on this. The kid is like trying to like sort of like minimize and rationalize why they're going to England or, I don't know, some sort of clandestine. It was very sketchy. And the other guys in the band, you can see, I felt it in the room that day, and I felt it when I was watching the tape. You can tell they're already like, what the hell? Like, this is kind of like, we weren't expecting this. We thought we were going to be a band, and they're talking about how they should split up songwriting stuff, and I don't know. Additionally, you can hear me kind of singing along in the background. It was so loud in there. My ears were blown out. You can hear me singing I Can't Hear It when they're doing Born to Lose. Born to Lose, I can't hear it. I don't even know if those are the lyrics. But, I was doing that part while Joey Kelly was singing Born to Lose. I can't tell if he was getting annoyed with the fact that I was doing that or not. But I, as a casual Heartbreakers fan, hearing Billy Rath play this song, I was into it. I was enjoying it. So, I was sort of singing along to that. And I think I was singing along to Pirate Love. And you might be able to hear me singing a little bit on the tape.
We work around everyone's schedule, but it can't be just once a week.
Yeah, to do these...
It's got to be at least 3 times a week.
To do these gigs in the summer, we need to at least have 2 originals to to tour off of and just to present, because without having anything to show, obviously.
You do that, right?
We can do
Do
that.
you have originals in mind, Billy?
And then once we do those 3 or 4 nights a week, then we go in the studio and record. And then we go on, start doing some gigs. Some unpublicized gigs at first, so just to tighten the band up in front of a live, you know?
So as of now, you emailed me some.
So those London dates are for you, they're not for us. Unless, of course, we can come up, well, yeah, what I'm reading is, he'll go over with Clem, he'll play with Clem. If we were to have 5 original songs on top of the Heartbreaker songs ready to go by October, you would consider
Yeah,
taking
we
the
can
band.
extend it, and that's the
pays?
issue.
Who would pay for that?
Oh, it would all be paid for. As far
But
as
there's still the issue of money.
But I mean, I couldn't even tell you what the offers are yet, because unless we have something to show as far as originals, obviously the money's going to change.
But what is possibly can happen, if we're ready to go, is when I finish those few dates, you guys fly over and we start a European tour for it.
Yeah, I mean, it would start right after. I mean, you guys could even come earlier and do a gig or two, part of the anniversary tour, or you can just come over, the first week in November.
See, we can hit France and Madrid and all those places outside of this.
I mean, there's
I got
offers there for the Street Pirates as it sits, but if we had originals, it would make a lot more sense. So
That's
everybody.
where you come in.
Yeah.
And that's where I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to originals, we all have originals. I don't know where you're at with that. I don't know what you plan to do about that. That is to say, are you planning on writing some fresh ones right off the cuff, the 3 of us, 4 of us, whatever?
You
Start anew?
right. That's what I
Or, that's true. too.
Well,
That's true.
and
too.
I'm going down the road. What the Heartbreakers did to solve a lot of that issue was we signed a publishing deal and everybody got 20%. So it doesn't matter who writes it.
Well, the thing is to get them organically down first.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Now.
this way,
Get 'em
when
on
it comes to choosing songs, nobody feels like, well, man, I'm not getting royalties. There's none of that shit.
Fuck that. Just get them done. We'll
Yeah, but
worry
it
about that
happens.
fighting.
I would sign
No one's gonna fight
20% of like a New York City girl. Or,
So, I mean,
for me.
everybody gets 20% no matter what.
That depends how quick you want to get the ball rolling.
I don't
If
want
you're
anything. We just want you to write 1 or 2 songs, 2 or 3. Forget all
Yeah,
that.
but it might not fit. It might not
Yeah, I mean,
fit
as
with
far
the
as getting in
sound.
advance for a record or something like that, I mean, that's far down the line.
Yeah,
We just
of
need to
course.
have a song or two to do
Physically
this.
write
We
the
can
words,
do that. Yeah.
words
We
and
can do
music
that.
on paper.
Yeah, we'll have a
So
few
he's
songs.
talking a song or 2.
He's talking a song or 2, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's.
We just need
that
something to
shouldn't be-
physically show people that, because right now it's just like, there's a lot of talk about it, but without actually hearing anything
Yeah.
or
They
seeing the
wanna hear
faces,
something
it's
new.
just
They wanna hear
like,
something new. They
First
wanna
thing
hear
is
all
get
the
rehearsals
rehearsal.
done.
yeah, and I don't
Good
want it to
music
be a
that's
Heartbreakers
sold.
tribute either. People want to see a new band.
It's got to bookend the set.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'll be
we don't
playing
have
it some
enough
Heartbreakers.
Heartbreakers for it to be a Heartbreakers
Thank you.
reunion.
Right.
Huh?
We
Exactly.
already got one.
What?
Fair enough.
We never saw this as a Heartbreakers reunion.
Yeah.
Billy has always told me from the beginning, which has been a few months now, that, that'll be a springboard for us. He is interested in doing something totally different than Walter wants to do. He wants to go out, he wants to write, he wants to record, he wants to tour. I get that. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't want to, it's an honor to play with him, of course, but I'm not going to fucking be in a Heartbreakers tribute band.
Exactly.
We're going to be a band. We're gonna
And
be a
that's
street
why I
band.
was interested in working with him, because I don't want to work with a tribute either.
So, I hear that. A lot of that's going to have to come from Billy deciding what he wants to do.
Wait, how did it come out?
What's the
Three verses chorus. Don't ever stop. What happened to Pirate Love?
Huh?
We never finished Pirate Love. What happened?
We'll get back to it. You ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
words out, but yeah, it's getting there. Pirate Love.
That was good, John. Really fucking good.
You too, man.
That blew out my ears.
Working.
It's working. You're doing it.
Think so?
Oh yeah.
It's gonna make it. It's gonna work.
Yep. I heard. When I first walked in, I was looking for. I called your cell phone like 8 times. I couldn't find the room, and all of a sudden I heard Power of Love, and I was like, oh my god, sounds great.
Sounds great, guys. What time is it?
You do a couple original numbers too. You guys got something rocking, man.
You can call it if you want, no biggie.
Get some good original stuff together.
That's great. Well, listen, whatever you guys.
Something else you guys wanted to do?
Any more you want to take for the camera?
Yeah, is there anything else you want to do for a camera?
I don't know, maybe the 4 of us together. Do you have just a single shot on that too?
Yeah, it's whatever's coming this way is what I'm shooting. That's it.
I thought that was pretty good, huh?
Want to call it quits?
Okay.
What else is
We're at the end of that song.
We said it.
Teach, where does that end? What is it?
Sounded good.
We'll get it. Next rehearsal we'll get the...
Sounded great. We're gonna call
Awesome.
it quits. You
All
got
right.
enough?
Yeah, listen. I'm here to record for you. Whatever you
You got
need.
footage?
Oh yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't know what happened. I saw Billy again a couple of times after this rehearsal, but I never saw this band play or do anything ever again after this rehearsal. Something went sour or something wasn't right. And the kid, I don't know what happened to the kid, the manager guy. Billy did go over and play England. He did not play with any of those guys. And as far as I know, that was the first and last time they gotten together in a room and jammed as a band. And they were pretty good. You know, with more practice and more polish, they would have been some formidable act, and they probably could have gone around gigging, you know, as a Heartbreakers surrogate, you know, in the same way that the Waldos are kind of a Heartbreakers surrogate. Because, you know, they're like, oh, we're going to get some originals, and we don't want to be a Johnny Thunders tribute act, and yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, I mean, who are we kidding? You know, that's essentially what that's the niche that they're filling, but they're kind of doing it in a more respectable way because they're doing it as like an original band instead of just trying to be like, you know, some tribute to the Heartbreakers, which I could really appreciate. And I'm sure if they were able to figure out and flesh out some original songs, they probably would have been pretty good. So the aftermath, as I said, Billy goes to England. He plays with Steve Dior from, God, what was he in? I think he also played with David Johansen, or something like that. He's another guy from the 70s. He had a band as well, and they together did a very small tour of England. The Heartbreakers were huge in England, by the way, huge. They had toured with the Sex Pistols on the Anarchy in the UK tour. It was like this legendary tour. I think the Clash were also on that tour. And so the Heartbreakers have always had a large looming legend in England, as they did in New York. The next time I saw Billy was at another Max's Kansas City reunion. He had a brand new band of Street Pirates. I never asked him what happened with the other band. It was good to see him. We chatted for a few minutes. And then he did another gig, and this was sometime in late 2011 at the local 201, which I don't think is around, the 201 local, the local 201, I think it was on Houston Street, and I don't think it's around anymore. It was this cool little club, and he had Joy Ryder in his band. Joy Ryder, she was a singer who, she toured with Iggy Pop, and she was involved with a bunch of bands in the 70s too. She used to do Johnny Was a Fireman with the Bullies, which was in honor of Johnny Heff, who had died in 9/11. He was a fireman, and he was the lead singer of the Bullies. She was in the Heartbreakers, and I taped that show. That show has been recorded, and it's, you know, the band was not good. The best version of the band is what's on this tape. Every other version of the Street Pirates was not that great. It just felt like they were held together with paper clips and were going to fall apart at any second. But, you know, the enduring, wonderful quality about Billy Rath was his optimism. The guy was an optimistic dude. The dude legitimately wanted to come back to music, wanted to put together a band and go out and paint the town red. And he kind of did in his own little way. He kind of did. He reunited with Walter a few times, and they did some Heartbreaker songs. It's the closest thing to the Heartbreakers that I'll ever get to see. Eventually it would not last, and Billy's no longer with us. And I'm really glad that I got to know him. So here's to you, Billy. If you enjoy this content, please support the channel by liking, sharing, and most of all, subscribing. We need subscribers, so please consider subscribing. Some of these shows have been archived and converted into podcasts that are available wherever you listen to podcasts, especially Spotify. So go check it out. Go follow us on Spotify, yada, yada, yada. Tune in next time.